Thanks for joining us this week on the show. I am thrilled to have you with us this week for a conversation that has so much value. If you or someone you know has experienced multiple complex syndromes affecting their health, be it from Lyme disease, other viral infections, mold or heavy metal sensitivities. There are so many people carrying these invisible afflictions now. And we are joined by Jennifer C. Brower, the author of the book Silent Killers, and an advocate for people who are navigating their own journey back to health with positivity, with pro-action, and with humor. I know you're going to get so much out of this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
It's time to flip the script on stress and learn how to thrive today and throughout your days. Join me for inspiration and interviews with folks who are shining their light in the world in the areas of positive mindset, health, and well-being. I'm your host, Susi Vine. Let's get happified.
Welcome back. I am so happy to have you with me today on the show for a conversation that I know is going to be so important and enlightening for you, perhaps people that you know, with issues that are going on in health that are much more, I believe, widespread than many of us have recognized. So please join me in welcoming this week on the show Jennifer C. Brower. She is the best-selling author of Silent Killers, a book detailing her own experience managing multiple complex disorders. Jennifer holds a degree in communications and public relations, and by age 26, she had obtained her commercial real estate license, sales license, and broker's license. Over the years, she's held numerous board positions, remaining an integral part of her community, with roots in Florida going back 4 generations. In sharing her own journey through Lyme disease, mold toxicity, mercury poisoning, and coronavirus, Jennifer aims to offer relief, positive results, and support for those dealing with complex health issues that are often hard to diagnose and to treat successfully. And she hopes her story will help others navigate their health challenges more effectively. Jennifer, thank you so much for making time to join me on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
And I'd love for you to give people a little bit of an idea how you came into this space. Someone who has all of that behind their name by their mid-20s is obviously a very driven person. And so I feel like now you have a new mission in life, perhaps in addition to these other business enterprises. And certainly as the CEO of Silent Killers LLC, you are bringing your mission forward. But how did you become the person who had to have all of this knowledge and accrue this passion?
Well, it's quite interesting. I was actually in Southwest Florida on a anniversary trip with my husband, and I was bitten by a spider in the middle of the night and woke up the next day literally immobile. And I looked at my husband and I said, I can't move. Like something's really wrong with me. And I remember hitting my hand in the middle of the night. And yes, it was a spider bite, and it definitely just knocked my immune system, which was very unusual for me because I was an avid runner, played tennis. I was extremely healthy, and very active, had 3 very young children. And so, my life was go, go, go and working and taking care of the family. And my body rebounded in about 3 days. I never quite understood what happened, right? I never had any correlation of that incident to going forward 10 years. And then I had a traumatic experience dealing with my mother's death. And we also found mold in our house. So basically, it's very common if you have Lyme, often you also have another co-infection of something because your immune system can handle a certain amount of stress. Once it starts getting overloaded and you have any kind of a traumatic experience that gets thrown in there, sometimes you're waving the white flag, right? And you're like, okay, what in the heck is going on? And Lyme disease and mold toxicity have very similar issues that are very painful. And so we ended up finding the mold in our house. I live in a 1937 beach house. And so the house originally was built to breathe, right? Because back then people knew what they're doing. They took their time. It wasn't row houses, track houses, and that kind of thing. So my house was able to breathe and everything. And it was the space that other people had added on that wasn't breathing. So that's where the mold had started. My children were affected, but I didn't put it together. My second son had multiple sinus surgeries at the age of 6 and 7. And I kept thinking, this is like just the oddest thing. So, you start adding all of these things together. Then we found the black mold. And in the meantime, I'm still trying to figure out about the Lyme disease because I live in Florida. So obviously, doctors at the time didn't think you can't have Lyme because you live in Florida. They never put in perspective that, gee, might have gone somewhere else. But I actually did get it in Florida. And when I started doing research and talking to people that were very involved in ILADS, the Lyme Disease Association, I found out there were hundreds of thousands of cases in Northeast Florida. I wasn't the only one. And so I was very fortunate to have good relationship with scientists and being able to understand what was going on and maybe why my immune system started breaking down so rapidly.
Fascinating. And you mentioned, and you're not the first, but very few people that I have heard speak about when they got Lyme disease, that it started with a spider bite, not the classic Lyme tick bite, and we have the classic idea of the ring, I
Bullseye.
believe,
Yeah.
around the bite. Exactly. All of these things, and then it seems like it's easy for doctors to disregard, "Oh, if you don't fit in this narrow definition of location and opportunity, then we don't know what we're looking at, and we're not gonna listen to you with your symptoms, and we're gonna tell you what you're experiencing."
Right. Well, and I live literally like 5 minutes from Mayo Clinic. And that's where I was going, thinking, oh, they're the best of the best. Well, they weren't diagnosing me. And so I was being treated by them for 6 to 7 years. And had they sent me to Rochester, New York, where they were dealing with Lyme and had the Lyme specialist, my life would have been totally different. So that's why I wrote this book, because I want people to know that sometimes even the best of the best aren't going to understand this situation and understand the delicacies of what happens with your immune system. And I had two different ports. I had one for 5 years because I was doing IV antibiotics. And then that one died, and I went over here and put another one in. And unfortunately, the antibiotics were kind of killing my system. And that's when I was like, I've got to look at other avenues for healing. And that's why I started, looking at definitely doing, and this is mentioned in the book, all these different modalities, right? So
Mhm.
acupuncture and cranial sacral massage therapy and everything I was doing, everything to drain my lymphatic system and put good stuff in, juicing, and just really learning how to manage. And then it's sad, but sometimes people think that, oh, I'll never heal from it. But there is full healing that you are capable of achieving. It's just a matter of what your choices are to get there.
And it sounds like you, through your determination and your research, you came into connection with the group of other people living with Lyme, with ILADS, with other groups. What would you say were the most helpful resources that you found, or where did you find the most hope in those early stages when the doctors had misdiagnosed you? They were on these standard Western treatments that weren't really healing your body. How did you find hope at that point and find resources that you felt you could trust?
Well, it was interesting. I found a naturopath. She was from New York and she was here in Florida, and she understood Lyme. And she understood boosting your immune system while detoxing via infrared sauna, sweating things out, whatnot. And she really took a hold of that and put me on supplements to build my immune system and giving me IVs to build my immune system. And then putting me on Chinese herbs to kill what I needed to kill that was more gentle on my body and didn't send you into a Herxheimer, which is a healing crisis, which is not a pleasant experience. And through her, I learned about doing magnet therapy. There was just so much. And being an athlete, I had to incorporate exercise, even when I'd go multiple nights and not sleeping because my nervous system was a wreck. Exercise was the key component to keeping myself together. So I just pushed through. And I found that there's these different modalities of swimming, doing cold plunges and saunas and building up your immune system so it can handle a lot of challenges that you wouldn't necessarily think that was going to take care of the Lyme, but it did. And then detox my body from the mold. And then you get hit by coronavirus, which is a totally different entity. However, people have different theories about different things, but I get so much information where people talk about Lyme disease as a bioweapon, that the government made it. And then there's talk of the coronavirus was also implemented in the lab. It's really hard not to get gulfed up in all of that. You really have to stay focused on a positive attitude, a positive mindset, and what am I going to do today to get through the day in the best way that I can.
I think that's a really important reminder. Thank you for that, because there's so many questions, especially when you're so frustrated with the standard medical system and they're not getting you to the right solutions and the right treatments. And why is this happening? How are so many people having these same struggles? And yet it's not something everyone is aware of. And it's really easy to get lost down those rabbit holes. And so I appreciate you found that your best results came from coming back to what was within your control, what you could manage, and finding an advocate that worked with you and brought in her amazing toolkit.
Yeah.
I mean, just what you've mentioned in the last few moments is quite an assortment of modalities and training that she must have had to bring to the table
Yeah,
or collaborating with other practitioners.
exactly. And she would have different people come in and treat. And I'll tell you some of those things that you think that doesn't, like, how do magnets work? So I learned to use magnets on myself and understanding why you put a negative magnet somewhere, a positive magnet somewhere else. We are beings of electricity, and we have all this water and in our systems, and magnets really can handle a lot of different healing. And I actually started learning more about that and using it because it helped me get through Corona faster. It helped keeping your body pH balanced and keeping your signals. I know this could be sounding odd to people, but keeping basically your positive and negative signals supposed to go through your body, and that's what happens. It does. Then your body has the ability to stay balanced. And if our bodies are balanced, then our immune system works much more effectively.
And I love everything that you're bringing to the table in your experience. Before I was a stress coach, I was a massage therapist, and I'm a Reiki practitioner. And so I think there's so much more than necessarily maybe some people find easier to understand, but there's so much that we have to do with energy. We are energetic beings. We are influenced by our environment around us. And one of the other things that I noticed that you've navigated over the years is a hypersensitivity to electrical fields, EMF hypersensitivity, which I understand can come on as people's immune systems are suppressed, as they're recovering from an accident or an illness. And we are subject to so many electromagnetic frequencies around us, our computers, our mobile phones,
Yes.
all the wireless devices and smart features in our homes. And so I love that you're sharing your experience with magnets. And how else did you, as you're explaining, we're positive and negative when we have these charges in our body. What else helped that kind of make that click for you besides your own personal experience? Was there another kind of understanding or an insight in working with energetic modalities that helped kind of ground it for you?
It did. And so, speaking of EMF fields, there's a number of people that read the book and they're actually in good health, but they've had their Wi-Fi modems like in their room and they sleep with their phone by their head. And it was so interesting to have people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I moved my modem out of my room and I don't have my phone in my room when I sleep at night. And I feel so much better. I have more energy the next day." And these are people that aren't even necessarily dealing with anything. It's just practices they read and started implementing themselves and reached out and said, "Wow, thank you." Because I didn't realize how tired I was all the time because you just get used to kind of pushing through, which I'm guilty of. But once you try it, it's interesting how effective it can be. And we're all different. Something that works for me may not work for somebody else. Like I get acupuncture to stay on top of just making sure my body's balanced. And I do magnets. I have an infrared sauna. I'm big into cold plunges. And I just find that if I kind of continue along that path, along, with eating right and juicing, that my body then can pretty much handle most anything. And there's so much going on in the world right now that we do have to have a self awareness. And part of that is an attitude of gratitude. And I follow certain people that practice mind over matter. And that has been an amazing journey in itself. So it's kind of like I have gone down all these different rabbit holes and then I've just held on to the things that I know work best for me. And everybody's going to find what works best from them. But that's why we just introduced all these concepts in the book. So people understood acupuncture and Chinese herbs. And we hit all these different things because the concept is to help somebody get through the journey and look at alternatives that they think, wow, I've never thought about, and also may not be as expensive as traditional treatments, let's say. It's really trying to help people clip their time and their diagnosis and spend a lot less money than I did.
And I hope that mission is appreciated by people everywhere and that they find that very applicable and relatable resource in your book, Silent Killers. I think that's an amazing mission to want to bring that forward because being on the far side of it and looking back, I think that's a real testament to not say, "Oh, I'm done with that and I know what to do for myself," but to stand there and reach your hand back and say, "Let me help you fast forward the learning and the headaches and the frustrations
Yes.
and bring you up to speed where what I've learned through the decades of self-care," it sounds like you've managed.
Definitely. And we're not going to be able to take care of our families or other people if we don't have self care. It's important.
So very important. I think it's an important lesson for our next generations too, for them to see the priority we put on our well-being and what we do in order to ensure our health.
Yes. In so many ways. I've talked to retirement homes, I've talked to a vast variety of communities about, people will put their parents in a retirement community thinking, oh, this is going to be the best situation for them. But they don't know that the Wi Fi is affecting them. So I've gone and talked to retirement communities about limiting the Wi Fi. Don't have it on all the time because a lot of those people didn't grow up with it. And so then they're wondering why they're not sleeping at all or why something's going on with them and they can't identify it. So that's important understanding for people to know that if our bodies weren't conditioned to it early on, hitting it later, it can be significantly difficult for someone to deal with that. And so, yes, it's a matter of education for sure.
That's a really good point that you make there, that we, as we're younger and most resilient, that's when we learn to accommodate, if you will, things in our environment. And so if those are introduced later after our resilience is already tapering, then that can kind of lead to even more problems. That's really interesting.
Yeah. When I was first having health issues, We didn't have this. We didn't have FaceTime or cell phones. And I would have to think, okay, how am I going to explain this over the telephone to somebody who can't see me? And I'm trying to explain to them why they need to see me. And so you make your list of everything that you're trying to explain to a doctor or a nurse over the phone to see if they are the right fit. And now there's so much more at hand. And so you have to say, okay, how much is good? And how much do we need to turn off? So you turn on the Wi-Fi when you need it and do a situation like this, or when we're not using it, it's off. I live in a very grounded house and I try to stay in grounded areas. And sometimes I get in people's cars, like I have difficult time riding in a Tesla, for example. And I'm like, never mind, I'll drive. Or you know what? You can let me out here. I'm just going to walk back and get my car, and you have to be brave. And you think, you know what? They think I'm weird. That's okay. But you have to do what's going to be best for you because you've figured it out, so to speak.
Definitely. And as you were talking about, reaching out to new practitioners, explaining what you're looking for, do you have some tips you can share with folks to help them maybe get their notes, their thoughts organized, questions they should be bringing to practitioners to do their best to make sure they're finding a good fit? Because it can be exhausting to go from one to the next. You really want to find these good relationships and early on if you're dealing with something like this.
Well, I do think that the symptoms are huge. You need to really write down what you're feeling and how you're feeling it. And are you feeling a certain way in the morning when you wake up? Are you feeling a certain way by the afternoon? What have you come in contact with that day? Did you, by chance, do some juicing? Did that help ground you? Did they help pH balance your body? So there's a number of modalities, and people will resonate with what makes them feel good and stay away from what makes them not feel good. I just try to encourage people to be brave and stand up and say, you know what? This is not for me. So I'm going to say thank you, but no thank you. And I'm going to go this way. And I think that it might be you're trying to figure out like the best acupuncture practitioner. I think that we gel with people that are like-minded. And I think it's super important. Be open to other things because you might learn something that you weren't aware of. I've had this incredible experience. I started following this gentleman, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but I had the blessing of going to one of his week-long retreats and experiencing so much healing by the power of prayer and the power of positivity and keeping your mind in that happy space as much as you can and learning the importance of meditation and grounding yourself. And as a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to go to the next level of 7-day intensive training with him. And it's science-based. It's really science-based. And so when you find people like that, and they are so significant, the healing and what they're teaching people, they're really teaching people, how do you meditate? How do you keep your mind in that great space of awareness to unawareness to allow healing to happen and not focus on just all the bad stuff? He's had so much success. He was actually interviewed at the Vatican because of all the healing that's been going around with that he's doing. And it's broad based across the world, broad based of learning about the attitude of gratitude and really keeping your energy high enough so other negative energies can't come into your space. And then you learn how to, like I said, be brave and say, hey, no thanks. I that's so cool that you're into it, but that's not really where my calling is. And I think that I always am searching for what is broad-based healing so other people can learn, not necessarily just from me, but from these other people teaching what they're teaching and watching thousands and thousands of people be healed because of what you're learning from them.
Yes, his work is really remarkable, and I hadn't heard that he'd been interviewed at the Vatican, but it makes sense because he has empowered thousands and thousands of people to reclaim their own health
Exactly.
through their mindset and through
Yes.
meditation. His own story is pretty remarkable that he helped himself to recover from a back injury without surgery with visualization and meditation, and it's very inspiring work. And I think that, another book that brings to mind right now is The Biology of Belief. I believe that's by Bruce
Yeah.
Lipton, but it's
Hmm.
a wonderful book also, really speaking to the power of not letting your mind engage only the worst possible outcome.
That is so true. So
It
true.
can be really hard to avoid, I'm sure. The overwhelm and the discouragement can really, especially on a day when you're suffering a flare with your condition and you're just not feeling well. So is that how you came to discover Dr. Joe and his work, or did someone else enlighten you to the
Oh,
power of positivity?
so this is crazy. Sometimes people believe in things that happen in threes or fours or whatever. I was on a podcast with a woman from London, and she had read the book and she saw that I had a chapter entitled Attitude of Gratitude. And she said, "Oh, do you follow Joe Dispenza?" And I was like, "Who?" I never heard. Then, literally, the next week, I had an interview. I had a podcast with a gentleman out of California. Same thing. He read the book. He said, "Oh, so this is so cool. So you follow Joe Dispenza?" And I was like, "That's so interesting. This is the second time it's been mentioned to me." Then, same thing. I was on a podcast with somebody in a totally different place and space, said the same word, and I couldn't believe it. And I was actually standing with my manager, and I got an email about a Joe Dispenza retreat in Nashville, Tennessee. And I said, "We have to go. We have to go." And she knew about him. I didn't. And I said, "We have got to attend this retreat." And because I feel like this is where we're being led. And we signed up and we went. And we both had the most amazing experience by going and taking time to meet with his research team, which is tough because there's a lot of people there. But because of what they teach and the attitude of gratitude, and take your mind off of your problems, but set it on something that is going to raise your vibrational energy and make you happy. And like I said, I'm getting ready to go this Saturday to his next advanced retreat, and really looking forward to it because there is such science that backs the proof of healing. Talk about this story in my book about sometimes on my worst days and I'm just trying to pull up from the bootstraps, I would write a letter to a neighbor just to get outside, walk to the neighbor's mailbox, stick it in there, and just say, "You know what? I know we don't see each other very often, but I'm feel so lucky that you are my neighbor, and I'm really thankful for that." And it's just you're writing something positive, you're moving towards something positive, and you know what? While you're writing and you're moving, your brain's not going back to, "Oh, I feel this pain or this buzzing." And you just try to keep that cycle of being not always moving, but staying in a place of, "Okay, I can do this. I've got this." And having a thought process of being able to conquer is the healing modality, right? And when you think about it, that attitude and gratitude are healing modalities. And that's a mindset.
Oh, that's beautiful. I absolutely love it. I hope that people really take that idea to heart because it's so true. You're engaging the process of gratitude, being grateful for something, you're writing it out. So you're engaging more of your senses and then getting your body moving, delivering it, taking positive action. That's a triple whammy right there. I love that tip that you shared. I hope that folks take that to heart. So in your experience, this is one way that you kept your, brought up your energy and brought yourself back into a positive state of mind on some of the tougher days. Are there some, and we've mentioned quite a few of the modalities that you've worked with over the years, are there some kind of non-negotiables that you employ regularly? You mentioned your infrared sauna and cold plunge and getting grounded. Are there some others, the getting quality sleep or the type of food?
Yes, quality sleep, that's a ticket. And you have to figure out what that looks like because people don't want to go on sleep medications, but I had to. But you have to get sleep to heal. And my body was like constantly like buzzing, my central nervous system was. So I had to do something. And whether it's you're laying there and you're putting your feet up the walls or you're doing yoga at night or reciting whatever or listening to beautiful music, whatever that is to you, those are important. And then also eating healthy. I do a lot of juicing. I eat a lot of sprouts because of the nitric oxide turning into oxygen in the cells. I do. And it's been now because I've been doing it, it's incorporated through my family. And the next generations are bringing it in their lives. And I will say that those are definitely my go-tos. And you know what? If I might be hitting negative pathways and I don't want to do it, sometimes I go, I need a 30-minute reset. And if that's outside walking, because you just enjoying the outside and not taking your phone, and just enjoy being out. Or it may be playing a 30-minute meditation on my phone and lying down, covering my eyes and just getting into that space. And you know what? Everybody has their own reset, right? And you just need to figure out what yours is. And we all get so caught up in the fast pace of life that we don't take that time to do the reset, and I think that that's imperative for healing. And I'll tell you the other thing I do too, which is funny, is that I literally tell my friends or my coworkers or whoever, I tell them how much they mean to me and how much I love them and appreciate them, and I think that's important in healing. And sadly, the divorce rate of people that have long-term autoimmune issues is rather high. And so to be able to share love in whatever capacity, whether it's to a friend, your child, somebody else's child, just telling a stranger, hey, have a great day. It's just the way in which we say it. And it can be the guy at the car dealership that it's the first time I met him. And I am so grateful that they've just done something for me that's going to make my life obviously function, that they just look at me and they're like, and I said, I know that kind of blew you away, but that's just me. And that's just the way I am. And I've really gotten to be more mindful of that.
The power of connection, I think, cannot be undervalued. And they say in positive psychology, they've done research, and positivity has a ripple effect. It reaches 3 degrees. So you talked with the service manager perhaps at the dealership, and then his employee perhaps had a better exchange, and then that might have rippled out to another customer. That's pretty easy math. We can probably consider that a done deal. But it's amazing to think of the effect that goes beyond what we can see when we choose positive interactions. And
Right.
so that's beautiful. Even when you don't have a lot of energy,
Yep.
you can put some heartfelt words into a conversation and totally change someone's day.
For sure. That is the absolute truth. And I believe in that so wholeheartedly. So it's just amazing. It is amazing, like you said, the ripple effect, right? That I stood there today thanking this woman who got me in to be able to have my car work. And I just said, you know what, Mary? I love you so much. And I am so appreciative that you helped me out like you did today. And you'll be amazed how many people will open their arms to give you a hug because you just said something that they needed. And you don't know what other people need, right? So if you just give grace and people receive the grace, it's amazing to see the response. And maybe they needed it. Maybe that was the one good thing that's going to happen all day. So who knows? And by having that loving attitude towards people, they're way more acceptive of calling you if there's an issue or can you give me advice on this? Because they're thinking they can identify. They all of a sudden you have a relationship that otherwise might not take place or transpire because you didn't thank somebody or you didn't say, man, this means the world to me. Thank you so much.
It's so empowering, and you get the rewards just instantly, instantly. But like you're saying too, opportunities can come about in the future that you never considered because you opened that door.
Exactly. Yes.
I love your inspirational approach and perspective. And I think people who can relate to your experience, maybe they're going through a health situation that they don't understand, they're having trouble getting good answers, or they're starting to feel a little bit hopeless because nothing seems to work. Do you have suggestions to those people who are still in the early stages, still learning what's going on to themselves, trying to calm their response? As you mentioned, it's so easily triggered, and we need to find out how to calm it and how to fortify it. Do you have some primary recommendations for some people who might be in that space right now?
Taking time to get grounded every day so you can think clearly. I also would suggest that you follow your heart. And if you know something is off and something's not right, then don't be afraid to say, hey, I need some help here. And whomever it is, you never know what you're going to learn from somebody you start a conversation with. You never know who God's going to put on your path that day. And that path is going to lead you looking in another direction. I would say courage, taking the time to implement whatever you feel in your heart is necessary for you. And do not be afraid to seek help from others and utilize maybe what they have that resonates with you. And if it doesn't resonate with you, you might learn why it should. When you're not feeling good, it's so easy to close down. And I've been there. And it's not going to be the best way to get you healthy the fastest. It's going to be reach out, figure it out, find good guidance.
That's a great reminder. I think it is true when we are stressed out or not feeling well, sometimes we don't want to burden other people or impose, and we tend to withdraw and sequester ourselves at exactly the point at which reaching out and making those connections can be the most important support we can receive.
That it is. And like you mentioned in the beginning that my book's a bestseller. I'm going to tell you, I don't think it's a bestseller because it's like the greatest book ever. I think it's a bestseller because so many people are hurting. So many people are hurting whatever's going on in their life. And it's a matter of trying to find a happy answer that's going to bring a great outcome.
And so let people know where they can connect with
Okay.
you, where they can find your book,
Yep.
give them all the details. We'll have it in the show notes as well.
Okay. You can go to jennifercbrower.com and you can buy the book. Looks like this. And something that's very cool that they did in the book is I have a lot of science, okay? And I have a lot of testing in there. And we wanted to keep the book reasonably priced, so we couldn't do all the colors that were necessary for the testing. So they put a scan me code in the back of chapters that where you can scan it and it'll take you to the website and show you what the test results are and give you more explanations. We do have other references in the back. So we do have a community called the Silent Killers Project, and it's something that we had been building and trying to help support each other. And that's really taking off. And it's exciting to be able to share this information because let's just help everybody heal as fast as we can.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing and the word that you're putting out there, the inspiration that you share coming through your journey and sharing your experience. I'm thrilled that it's all available in this book, in this group where people can connect and get support. Thank you so much for sharing this with us today.
I'll tell you what, it wouldn't happen if I didn't have a great team. And they are amazing. And I have so much love and gratitude for them because they're the ones who have really made all this work. And I have to give them a shout out. And you'll see all about them if you go to my website, jennifercbrower.com. And because it's taking the words, they took the words and made them become alive. essentially. So keep yourself surrounded by great folks.
That's a great takeaway too. Thank you so
Thank
much. Thanks
you.
for sharing your wisdom and for shining your light. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
what you do.
Thanks so much for having me on. I just hope you have the most blessed day and take a walk in the sunshine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's my intention. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Take care. Good to see you.
You as well.
Thanks for listening. You'll find all the resources we discussed today online at happifiedlife.com, along with links to subscribe to Happified on your favorite player and a handy search tool so you can search all of our previous episodes. Help us grow by leaving a quick review and share this episode with a friend. Until next time, keep on shining.